Good day everyone, I am D Barrantes and today I will be presenting the travels of Jose Rizal, experiences, observations, and their influence on his writings. So when we hear about Rizal's travels, we usually think of the different countries he visited. However, his journeys were much more than sightseeing. Every country he visited became an opportunity for him to learn about education, science, history, politics, and culture. These experiences shape his idea about freedom, reform, and national identity, which later became evident in his writings. So, in this presentation, I will discuss Rizal's major travels, the experience and observations he gained, how this influenced his works, and why these lessons remain relevant in the Philippines today. So, objectives. Before we begin, let me briefly present the objectives of this discussion. First is, we will identify Rizal's major travels. Second is, we will examine the important experiences and observations he made in each country. Third, we will analyze how these experiences influence his writings and reform ideas. Lastly, we will connect Rizal's observations to the current sociocultural and political situation of the Philippines. So, why did Rizal travel? Many people think Rizal traveled simply to study medicine. While that is true, it was only one of his reasons. He left the Philippines in 1882 because he wanted to continue his education, particularly in ophthalmology. Since his mother was suffering from an eye illness, at the same time, the colonial government limited the opportunities available to Filipinos. Rizal believed that studying abroad would allow him to gain knowledge and experience that he could later use to help his country. His travels also allowed him to observe how other nations governed their people, educated their citizens, and promoted scientific advancement. Instead of accepting everything he saw, Rizal carefully compared these countries with the situation in the Philippines. These comparisons inspired many of his reform ideas. So next is Spain. It is one of the most important countries Rizal visited. It is the Spain. In Madrid, he studied medicine at the Universidad Central de Madrid while also becoming active in the propaganda movement alongside other Filipino reformists. Living in Spain exposed Rizal to democratic ideals, freedom of expression, and political discussions that were impossible under Spanish colonial rule in the Philippines. So he realized that education encourages people to think critically and participate in improving society. So these experiences strengthened his belief that Filipinos deserve equal rights, quality education, and representation under the law. Rather than encouraging violence, Rizal believed that education and peaceful reform were the best ways to achieve lasting change. So next is France and Germany. So after Spain, Rizal continued his study in France and Germany. In France, he expanded his medical knowledge by working with experienced specialists. Later, in Germany, he worked with respected scientists and admired their discipline, dedication to research, and commitment to learning. It was also in Germany where Rizal completed and published No Limit Tangere in 1887. This novel exposed the corruption and abuses committed during the Spanish colonial period. So his experiences abroad showed him that societies become stronger when people value education, science, and critical thinking. So these ideas became central themes in his writings. Next is Japan. Rizal also visited Japan in 1888. During his stay, he admired the country's discipline, cleanliness, patriotism, and rapid modernization. What impressed him the most was that Japan embraced modern technology while preserving its culture and traditions. So this observation inspired Rizal because he believed that Philippines could also modernize without losing its identity. Today, lesson is still relevant because as technology continues to advance, Filipinos should continue embracing innovation while protecting our history, culture, and values. Next is United States and England. So Rizal visited to the United States gave him mixed impressions. He admired the country's modern transportation, advanced industries, and economic development. However, he also observed racial discrimination against minority groups. This experience reminded him that a country cannot be considered truly progressive if equality and justice are not enjoyed by everyone. Meanwhile, in England, Rizal conducted historical research on Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. He carefully annotated the book to prove that Filipinos already had a rich civilization before Spanish colonization. This work challenged the colonial belief that Filipinos were uncivilized before Spain arrived. It also strengthened Filipino pride and nationalism. So next is influence in his writings. The lessons Rizal learned during his travels greatly influenced his writings. His novel No Limitangere exposed corruption, abuse of power, and social injustice. Its sequel, El Filibusterismo, presented a darker picture of society and questioned what happens when peaceful reforms fail. His essay to the young women of Malolos encouraged women to become educated, independent, and active contributors to society. Although these works discuss different topics, they all promote the same values: education, justice, equality, patriotism, and responsible citizenship. Relevance today. Even after more than 100 years, Rizal's ideas remain relevant. One issue that continues to affect the Philippines is misinformation. Through education, Rizal believed people could think critically instead of blindly accepting false information. Another lesson involves good governance. Rizal admired countries that valued accountability, education, and public service. Today, Filipinos continue to hope for honest leadership, transparency, and equal opportunities for everyone. Finally, Rizal's experiences remind us that modernization should never come at the expense of our national identity. As we adopt new technologies and ideas, we should also preserve our language, culture, history, and values. So next, conclusion. To conclude, Rizal's travels were not ordinary journeys. Every country he visited became an opportunity to learn new ideas about education, science, history, politics, and society. These experiences inspired his writings and strengthened his vision for a better Philippines. His travels taught him that genuine progress is achieved not only through economic development, but also through education, justice, equality, and responsible citizenship. As a student, we may not travel as extensively as Rizal did, but we can still learn from different experiences, think critically, and use our education to contribute positively to our communities. So, we continue the legacy that Rizal began more than a century ago. So, thank you for listening, and I hope this presentation has helped you better understand how Rizal's travel shaped both his writings and his dream for the Filipino nation. So, thank you.